So, yes, the result. This is the main concern at the moment. Exams are coming up. But how many results are we waiting for? And how many times do we wait for the result? Work for it, prepared for it, and then we got a result. And then again, we're preparing again. Preparing for that moment where we're expecting another result. So we look at these exams and we see a deadline coming, we see the time for the exam coming, and it's the main thing on your mind. It's right there. It's in the forefront. You know, you start to, I don't know if you're doing what you're studying. If you're studying mathematics, maybe you see numbers everywhere. Or, you know, if you're studying literature, then maybe you see words and, you know, statements everywhere. It's absorbed your whole consciousness, coming to this point. But this absorption has caused so much stress. Because why is the reason we're preparing, what do we feel the result will give us? We want a result, but for what? That we have to inquire about. Why do we do anything for a particular result? Why do we go to school for 20 years? Maybe if you're a PhD. At least 12 years we'll do. We'll do primary school, high school, right? And then, okay, we're in university. What's the shortest course? Maybe 3 years, right? I did a 4-year course. I got a long time ago. I got a Bachelor of Arts in Interactive Media and Animation. So it's pretty much a degree in cartoons. I like cartoons, so I'll do a degree in cartoons. And I remember stressing out for certain assignments and exams and even trying to get into university. My God, you know, my parents were pushing me hard. You better get in, you know. Your whole family depends on it. You're our only hope in our family now. No one in our family has ever gone to university. You can be the one. And give us so much pride. So I graduated in 2007 or 8. Yeah, something like that, around that time. Now I'm showing my age. Yeah, so a long time ago. And when I look back at it, I was like, man, what was I stressing about? So overrated, my God. You know? But let me go back to the main point. Why do we do anything? All this schooling. Okay, you get your degree. Let's be positive about it. Yeah, you do the assignments, get the exams done. You get your degree. Now what? You got that result. Now what? Okay, we're going to start knocking on doors. Okay, I got my piece of paper. Give me a job. Right? So now you got your job. Maybe it's an office. Maybe you have a certain field. Maybe you get to travel a bit for business, you know, fly business class, get the company car. I don't know. I'm going high level here. And for what? You know, so you start looking at your bank account. Hopefully there's a few extra zeros on the end of those numbers. Right? Sounds good, right? But are we just happy with numbers? Is that the result we needed? No. We use those numbers and we get some papers out of the machine and we start spending and we get stuff. Maybe some, you know, a car, some nice clothes, buy some airplane tickets, go to holidays. So many things we buy. Even a house, we could buy a house even. So you have all this stuff. Is that enough? No, stuff is good when you share with others, right? Yeah, especially people that really care about it. Someone, you know, the one. The one that knows you, you know? The one that, like, you start a sentence, they finish it. The one that's like, just like, it's like your perfect match. That's the one, right? And you start looking for that one who gets to fit in with your world, you know. Because most of the time, people have been criticizing us, right? Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, I'm just not into it. You know, we experience this from when we were a kid. You know, you're too small. You can't do that, you're too small. No, why not do it? You're too small, sorry. And then you grow up even more, maybe a teenager, and you're trying to keep up with all the trends in high school, right? What's the latest clothes? What's the latest music? I heard like this pressure even starts with, you know, before you hit teenager, because of social media, kids have access to it, and there's all this cyberbullying and so much more pressure. It starts even earlier. So you're trying to keep up with the trends, and you know, you're still not good enough. You know, it's always something you're missing. But then you meet that person, you know. It's like they like you for just who you are. But don't you think my nose is too big? No, I think it's very cute. And then you make a pact together. Okay, we'll stay together, and it's us against the world, you know. And then you feel the drive. Yes, I will do that job. You know, that job you got after your degree. You know, you maybe worked 2 or 3 months, and you're so excited. Yes, I got it, the job, you know. I'm a ... fill in the blanks. Engineer, I'm a lawyer, I'm a... So all these things that we've achieved. But usually a job gets boring, runs out of juice, you know. You become just like everyone who's in peak hour traffic. So, okay. But it's, you know, it's nice. You find that person, you start a family. Maybe you need some kids or some pets, right? That sounds reasonable. And so you have some kids, 2.5 kids, that's the normal rate apparently. I don't know how you have half a kid, right? I'm just going by stats here. The nuclear family, 2.5 kids. And you're in your home, that you got a mortgage out so you can get the home. And now, you know, so many things fill up the consciousness. Now it's the exam. Soon it'll be a mortgage. And so we have the house. Say we got a couple of cars. You know, I'm being optimistic here. I'm thinking, you know, you do well. You look like very intelligent, so let's go for it. And your kids, you have many dreams for them to also be successful, you know, well-behaved, respectful to their parents, you know, and yes, they'll succeed just like we did. Work hard and be disciplined. I don't know, did you guys turn out how your parents wanted? Did the plans you had, the plans they had for you? Maybe a little different. So you can imagine what it's like dealing with, you get to experience what your parents experienced. You'll see when you have children, maybe they've told you. When you have kids, then you will see what I had to do with. And the kids grow up. They also go to university, they get there, also same thing. And so they also get married. Grandchildren, wow. You know, amazing. And that's like, you've got so much wisdom, experience of the world you can share, ready to share. But unfortunately, most of the time the kids who are grown up, they like to be distant from their parents and live their own lives. Have many of you moved away from home? Yeah? To come here? It's kind of cool, isn't it? Being away from the parents. You know, you have your own space. You can do what you want. So maybe the kids will feel the same way about us. But then, okay, they have grandchildren, and then they say, okay, hang with the grandchildren. So all these results have come. But what is it all for? for happiness. That's the only reason why we do anything. We don't do anything for distress. But the stress still comes, right? We never planned for it. We never prepared for it. That wasn't the plan, but it comes automatically. But unfortunately, there's a deadline for this lifetime. It's quite interesting that the assignments, they give you a deadline. But even in this lifetime that we're living in, there's a deadline. So everything that you built up, the career, all the knowledge, all the social prestige, social circles that you built up, when death comes, it's all gone. You come naked and you go naked. Sorry to sound pessimistic. Just trying to put things in perspective here. It's said that this materialistic civilization is just geared towards decorating the dead body. After all that. So it just ends up like it just ends up being zero really, right? So let's come back to our situation now. We're not there yet. You're going for some exams, some assignments. How are we going to go about this in a way that we can actually get eternal happiness? Something that goes beyond death. So this is when spiritual life kicks in. And spiritual life starts with knowing who you are. If you don't know who you are, you cannot be happy. Is that right? So we need to know who we are. So spiritual life understands that we are more than just this material body made of blood, flesh, and bone. You know, with all its labels. It has labels like your job, student. My first job was a rat catcher. I'm not that anymore. I used to be a bartender. I used to be a martial arts teacher. You know, but that's not who I am. But people, you may identify with that. Some people identify with their nationality. You know, I was born in Australia. I'm Australian, mate. There you go. Yeah, I'm really from Australia, believe it or not. It's not a fake accent. What happened, I came overseas with this Australian accent and no one could understand me. They just thought I was saying, yoing, yoing, yoing. So I even had to change my accent, but I'm still the same person. You can change your nationality. I know many South Africans that have migrated to Australia and they've taken Australian citizenship. And yes, now I'm dedicated to the country. But you're still the same person. You may identify with your race, the color of your skin, white, black, colored, Indian, whatever. But, you know, Michael Jackson proved that it doesn't matter if you're black or white. You're still the same person. And some people may even identify with gender. That can even change. You're still the same person. Even this body, you know, is changing all the time. You had a baby body before. But where's that now? It's gone. Every cell in the body every 7 years completely replaced. It's just like you look at a flame, like on the candle. It looks like one flame, right? But it's actually constantly renewing a new flame. Or like if you look at a river and you say, this part of the, that's the river. And then just gone. Where's your river? So the body is constantly in flux. You know, every time you look in the mirror and you see how beautiful or handsome you are, it's a completely different person. So who's the witness of the change? I'll give one more example because it's more fun. I just need a volunteer. Can you volunteer for me? I just need you to stand up. Yeah, just here. Give me a clap. Yeah, yeah. Okay, all I want you to do is point to your shoulder.
To my shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. Very good. Now point to your elbow. Yeah. Now point to your head. Yeah. Point to your knee. Okay, point to your ear. Now point to you. Yeah, that's your body, but you. Like,
Me.
yeah, yeah, point to you. That's your chest. That's nice. Point to you. Do you know where you are?
I'm here.
Thank you so much. Give a clap. So you can see, even with our language, you know, you say my hand, not I hand. You say my head, not I head. You say, like, you know, like I have my bag, my glasses. I'm separate from these things. Same thing. My body, I'm separate from it. Who's the I? So that's the spirit soul that's embodied, that's inside the body, that's activating it. Yeah. Just like you see, maybe you've been to a funeral. Someone's grandparents, someone's father, mother, someone's relative. And what happens? What do they say? He's gone. She's gone. You know, but a kid doesn't know the difference. What do you mean? Grandfather's still there. I don't understand what you're crying about. He's still there. No, he's gone. What's gone? The soul is gone. So we're like a driver in the car, where we start to identify with the car. You know, it's like if you went to the, what do you call it? The garage, you know, and then you take out the fuel pump, you know, and then instead of putting it into the car, you start opening your mouth and start enjoying life. No, it's not possible. So we're doing everything for the body, but nothing for the soul, who we really are. So the purpose of your human form of life is to understand who we really are. Where do I come from? What happens to me after death? What's the purpose of my life? And why do I have to suffer when I don't want to? You know, we kind of make a compromise. Yeah, you know, you need suffering, otherwise you can't appreciate the happiness. That's a compromise. If you could choose, right, how much happiness would you have? 100%, right? You wouldn't want like just 99% and 1% unhappiness. No, we want full. But then as we go about life and then we see everyone else sort of struggling, we're like, okay, yeah, we better take some with it. No, that's a compromise. Spiritual life is no compromise. We want full happiness, a pleasure that has no beginning and no end, because that's the nature of the soul. It's eternal. If you have happiness plus temporary, which is the body is temporary, it equals to misery. Happiness plus temporary equals misery. But the soul is eternal. It lives on beyond this body. And then it gets another body according to its activities in this life, its desires, and your state of mind at the point of death. So that's, and what body will you get? It says in the scriptures that there's 8.4 million species of life that you can get into. Maybe a fish body, maybe a tree body, maybe a lion's body, maybe an eagle's body, a dolphin's body, maybe a cockroach's body, maybe an ant's body. Maybe in this room there's like 6 trillion ants. Yeah, I counted. But what about how many humans on this planet? It's like 6 billion. Apparently they counted them all. So the human form of life is so rare, actually. It's so rare because you kind of cycle, there's like an evolution of consciousness. Just so you may start with the lowest species of life, and then the next you go more and more and more. Then you attain human form. But if you don't use that human form properly for inquiring about spirit, then you have to go back down because you didn't use it properly. So this whole lifetime in this human form of life is like your schooling. Life is like a school of hard knocks maybe. And the exam is death. What's your state of mind at the point of death will determine your destination. So we want to live a life that has happiness beyond death, to not come back to another body again and go through the cycle again. Imagine going back to school again, learning how to walk again. No, we want to live on in a life of full bliss, knowledge, and eternality. This is the nature of the soul. It's eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. Pretty much, we want to live forever, know everything, and always have a good time. That's pretty much what life's about. But in the material world, if you identify with the material body, you're identifying with temporariness, you identify with ignorance, because the body is never alive, actually. And you're identifying with misery. Because again and again, you have to lose it all. You build it up and you lose it all. And we even lose things along the way because of this temporary nature. So how do we take the soul out of this temporary environment? It's kind of like a fish out of water. It's incompatible. We have to put it back in its original habitat. So the soul needs to be in the spiritual world. It needs to be in an atmosphere which is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. So now we have this spirituality has God involved. So we are a spirit soul, and that spirit soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, or God. Many names for God: Allah, Jehovah, Buddha. And I learned in Zulu is Onkulunkulu. So many names: Govinda, Rama, according to unlimited qualities and activities and relationships that God has. So we have this connection with God, but we've forgotten that connection. That's why we're in a suffering condition. That's why we always meet with defeat and failure. So the soul is the same, one in quality with God. So we're eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. God is also eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, to like an unlimited level. We're like limited. So it's kind of like an ocean and a drop from that ocean. We are like the drop and God is like the ocean. Or like the sun and the sun ray. You know, the sun is like, so much heat is coming from it. But the sun ray, you get a little bit. So that's the difference. So we need to connect back in a loving relationship. So this is what we teach in Bhakti Yoga here. Yoga means to connect to God, actually. You may think of yoga like deep breathing and so many poses. That's one type of yoga. But Bhakti Yoga is about loving devotional service, or using our senses in the service of the master of the senses. So when we do that, that's when the spiritual atmosphere appears, when we connect to God, because that's where He resides. Most people want the kingdom of God without God. You know, they just want whatever God has to offer, all the opulences, the riches, that's what I want. But God, you know, when I go to heaven, you know, I have my cloud maybe and my harp and I'm singing praises of God, but do we interact with Him? Maybe, maybe not. No, there's a full and intimate relationship with God, or Krishna. Krishna is the name of God, meaning He's all attractive. He's the best person to connect with. He's all attractive. So we see we're attracted to many things like people have, right? So Krishna has 6 opulences to the unlimited level, right? He has unlimited wealth. He owns everything. And when we hear about, say, Donald Trump or Elon Musk, he's South African, right? Yeah, Elon Musk, we're like, oh, we're attracted because, wow, so much wealth he has. But unlimited wealth, that's God, that's Krishna. And then he has unlimited fame. When we hear someone's famous, we get attracted automatically, even if it's for the wrong thing. You know, you hear someone is famous for, like, I don't know, killing so many people. And, you know, and you hear someone knows him, and you're like, What's he like? You're attracted. So God has unlimited fame. You ask an atheist, do you believe in God? What would they say? No, because they know who you're talking about. So Krishna has unlimited wealth, fame, knowledge. We're attracted to people with knowledge, like Albert Einstein. You know, he has like far out hair, but because he's so intelligent, yes, we're interacting with him. Yes. There's also something in the scripture that says that the sweet singing of birds is actually God's whisper. So next time in the morning you hear birds, you can remember that. So he has unlimited wealth, knowledge, fame. He has unlimited strength. I don't know if you've seen this World's Strongest Man competition. It's like, you know, there's like a guy who's like pulling an airplane with his teeth. He pulls it like 20 meters, like this. But when Krishna himself, God appeared on this earth, he lifted up a whole mountain on his left pinky for 7 days and 7 nights. So easy. So strong. You know, all these planets are orbiting in perfect synchronicity. How's that possible? That's by the strength of God. So we've done wealth, knowledge, fame, strength, beauty. So we always attract someone beautiful. You know, they have these beauty pageants, and you know, we're so attracted. You know, but the source of all that beauty that we see in this world, if you see any beauty in this world, understand it's the smile of God. It's like a welcome. Yes, it's something to a little taste of what you can see. You know, kind of like you may see a sunset, it looks like a very nice painting, you know, in the sky. But we're not concerned with the beauty of the painting. The beauty of the painter is even more. And then he has unlimited renunciation, which I like the most. Because you may meet someone who has a little money, you know, is strong, beautiful, famous, is intellectual. So usually someone like that is a bit proud, right? And they think, they don't want to hang out with me. But God is like so interested in our lives that he resides in your heart and witnesses everything that you do and still travels with you through every step of life. He wants to be your friend. This is the type of person that we need to fall in love with. This is where real happiness comes from. A love that goes beyond time, space, and thought. How many relationships have been, you know, heartbroken? It's happened so many times. And it can happen maybe due to time. Someone has to pass away, maybe some parents or grandparents or some relatives. Because that exchange of love has been cut off. But the connection with God, it's an eternal connection. It can never be broken. And so it goes beyond time. This love goes beyond space. I don't know if you've ever been in maybe in primary school, I remember you had your best friend in your class and you're so close. And then you change classes and then you're not so close anymore just because of space. Maybe long distance relationships, you've tried that out. It's really tough. But because God, he's omnipresent, he's accessible everywhere, even within your heart. Said he even resides in the atom, in between every atom. You know, you can always access God, especially by chanting these names of God we have here. Hare Krishna. It says God and his name are non-different. He can just be there for you. And then this love goes beyond thought. So usually when you think of someone, maybe you see a picture, it's not the same as being with them. But when you think of God, God is thinking of you, and it's as if he's with you. So what is all this connection to God and experiencing unconditional love got to do with my exam coming up? Well, the thing is that when you have a view of the bigger picture, of the goal of life, then you can utilize what you're gaining for that goal. So instead of it becoming a zero or running out of juice, so you get all these zeros, like, you know, we talked about the car, the house, the relationships, all the degrees and the money. Because it doesn't satisfy you so much, it just runs out of juice. They call it chewing the chewed. You know, maybe, I don't know, under these tables if there's chewing gum underneath. You know, maybe I reach under there and see if there's any more juice left. That's what everyone's doing in this world. It's the same thing. But if you connect to God, if you connect to Krishna with your activity, say for this exam, say you get some knowledge, I will use it to deepen my relationship with God. Then it's like you're putting a 1 in front of all those zeros, and it has so much value, right? So when we go for this God-centered approach to these temporary results that come along, then the stress is not so much, because you have a higher consciousness. You can see it for what it is compared to the real goal of life. But if you think that this temporary quick goal is like everything that's got to do with me, that's going to define my whole existence, that's when you're falling into all that stress and anxiety and like that. So I will stop here and let you think about it a little bit. If you have any comments or questions or reflections about what we spoke about, you can express it. And when you express it, I've got this little mic here. You don't have to hold to your mouth, you can just hold it here. And you can let us know your thoughts, if you have some. Yeah.
So you talked about, if I may say, God, and you talk about change. So my question will be, so if I listened to you correctly, you said that things go through changes. So in my understanding, like change is like the universal, if I may say, it's more like a universal thing that is happening. The spirit, the consciousness go through changes. And my question is, does God go through the same process, the changes that you have said everything goes through?
Yes, very nice question. So God and us, the spirit soul, as a spiritual being, we're the only thing that's constant. But everything else is in a cycle of change, kind of like changing seasons. So everything in the material world is created, it stays for some time, and then it is eventually destroyed. All right? But us being spiritual beings, and God being the supreme spiritual soul, they're always remaining. They don't die. They don't go through such changes. Yeah, so when you hold on to that constant, then you're not so bewildered by the changes that are taking place. You understand that, okay, you know, just like it's summer, right? Oh, it's so hot, it's so hot. If you just get caught up in the now, like, oh, it's so hot, just someone who knows winter's coming, they're not so disturbed. All right, it's okay, winter's gonna come soon, no worries. So same thing, happiness and the stress, your ups and downs are gonna happen in this world. But when you're understanding that, no, I'm an eternal spirit soul beyond this body, and I have an eternal relationship with God who's also constant with me, then you don't get disturbed by those changes.
Yeah, sorry, and one last question is that, so the struggles that we have is, I'm just talking from my point of view, the struggle that we have is actually believing what we see, in the sense that what we see is just a representation that is coming from what I may say the external environment to us. I'm just seeing a representation of the world. I'm not, in my understanding, I'm not seeing the world as the world itself. And how do you trust that whatsoever you are thinking about the world is actually the true world in itself without me being part of the process of seeing it?
Yes, very nice question. So there's different ways to attain information about reality. One can do it by sense perception, empirical, and that can only take you so far. There's a story about Dr. Frog, and so it's a frog, and he's living in a well, and then he thinks, yeah, this is what life's all about. It's all about this well. I can see it for myself. He's a doctor, he's a philosopher, he's a scientist, Dr. Frog. Yes, I can measure it. This is how big the whole existence is. Good. And then someone comes to the well and says, hey, there's a little bit of water in the well. He goes, hey, why are you doing in this little well? There's a whole, Atlantic Ocean out there. Why don't you go there? And he goes, Atlantic Ocean? He goes, yeah, how big is it? Is it 2 times bigger than my well? He goes, no, it's so much bigger. 3 times bigger. No, so much bigger than that. 4 times bigger. No, so much bigger. So that, it sounds funny, but sometimes if we're just relying on empirical evidence or sense perception of like reality compared to the ultimate reality, we won't be able to compute it because we always size it up against what we experience now. So that's one way. It's still, you get some information. I'm not saying it's not. You'll get some information, but not the complete picture. Another way is by hypothesis. They call it anuman in Sanskrit. So you may have experienced it through a few things. Like say, for example, maybe you take a bus to UCT, and every day there's a schedule for the bus, and you've gone to that bus stop before, so next time you come, yes, the bus will come at that time, and you're like, okay, and you kind of hypothesize like this, or like I hear someone just screaming outside. I can't see it for myself, but I can understand, okay, maybe there's like some young ladies there and they're laughing about something. I can picture it in mind a little bit. So also this is also, you can get some information, but you won't get the complete picture. So the best way to get information about the complete picture, about God and His energies and our relationship with God and His energies, is by what's called Shabda Brahman, or from hearing from authorized scripture and saintly persons who understand the nature of both. And when you hear from them, then it's kind of like, instead of like you reaching up, that comes down, like kind of like if there's a really ripe mango in the tree on the top, you don't just throw it down, it gets passed down branch to branch. So the knowledge about God and our relationship with God is passed down through guru and student. It's called disciplic succession. So there'll be a spiritual teacher starting from God, and it comes down. And they don't add anything, they don't subtract anything. And then it comes to us. When you connect to that line and hear that knowledge, then you get it as it is. And then you get the full picture. Is that okay? Nice question. Anyone else? Kind of stopped you. If you had a thought, it's okay. Yeah. Doesn't have to be a question particularly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so we established that the materialistic path is clearly the wrong path to go on, but
Sure.
I'm not sure if it's clear what exactly we should be doing if we don't follow that path, right? I mean, obviously spirituality is important,
Yeah.
doing it in service outside of yourself, but it's not always available, right? I mean, it's like, I mean, we have to go to our 9 to 5 and do all of these things that are like,
Yes, yes.
really feel like chores to your physical form. And you have to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I suppose maybe how to be happy with having to do those things and the very small bit that we can do to satisfy the spiritual side of ourselves, because
Yeah.
it's more like 5% of our lives. It's quite, I feel like it's too little.
Yeah, of course. It's a very nice question. You know, you're kind of surrounded by everything material. All the advertisings are yelling at you to build the body, and you should satisfy your body, and you know, material advancement is what you got to do. You're hearing it from all directions, and you've heard it since you were a kid. So I mean, it seems like a complete 180, right?
I feel like I have to play the game, so I can't just totally abandon it.
Yeah, of course, of course. So yeah, so my idea is not you that okay. Now you become a monk like me, shave your head. You want to shave your head? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you still do what you do, but you change your consciousness. You know, you still go for those material goals, but then you do it in such a way. Say if you want to be like the next president of South Africa, go for it. But then you'll become like a saintly president, saintly king, self-realized soul that can direct others and uplift the whole country, for example.
Yeah.
So for you to be, you know, with a degree, already you have some respect. People look up to you. So then you can guide others like that. For example, but how to have your own spiritual life along with attaining those goals, that is probably maybe something that's more practical. So the way to do that is pretty much this chanting, what we've done. This is the easiest but very powerful process to do. Like there's different types of chanting. We did it with music like this. And there's also personal chanting. Some people, you may have seen the beads. Yeah, got them in here. Yeah, so this is like personal chanting. And you know, there's 108 beads, and you chant one mantra on each bead. And 108 mantras is like one round. Takes like 10 minutes. So you could try that, and you'll see even for your material endeavors, you'll become more focused. All the like extra chatter will calm down, because mantra means to deliver the mind, and Maha means the great mantra. So they will completely get rid of all the chatter, and it'll make you focus on what's important, and you'll be so much more efficient, actually. So maybe you could try it as an experiment. Maybe all of us could try. Try chanting this mantra for like 5 minutes every day. You can do it when you wake up. You can do it for like 6 days, and then on the 7th day, stop and see if there's a difference. And yeah, then you can get back to us. But that's a good way to start. So that you could try that, for example. Yes, Jamila.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, because I think, hopping off of what you were saying, is I think sometimes, you know, thinking about spirituality and detaching yourself from this material body can sometimes feel impractical to some people who feel like they're just trying to survive,
Yes.
right? Like, I can't afford to detach, because
Yes.
if I don't ace this exam, then I'm going to get kicked out of school, and if I get
Sure.
kicked out of school, I'm not going to have anywhere to live. If I don't have anywhere, and then it just
Yeah.
cascades like that. So the stakes of having to comply with the material world always feel more higher or greater than what I can
Sure.
afford to lose. Right, I think that's why, more and more students, as time goes on, are, please excuse me if for the trigger warning, are taking their own lives, and
Yes.
the pressure is just suffocating them,
Yes.
because they think that if I can't reach this milestone, then my material existence, be it temporary, will
Yes.
be miserable
Yes.
beyond what I can handle.
Mhm.
So I think thinking about that and the threat of failure and the threat of, falling out,
Yes.
can sometimes make this discussion around, tapping into the spiritual self feel far gone, because I'm just trying to eat.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out where my next meal is coming from. I'm trying to
Yes.
figure out how I'm going to have a roof over my head.
Mhm.
And God doesn't seem to have those answers for me. Those these are the
I
hard
understand,
questions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just when it comes to the exam and detaching yourself from the result of the exam, because I always think about exams as the epitome of that trial where you give your all and it's not up to you what comes out of it at
Yes,
the end of
yes.
it. The result is the result that you get. DP, DPR, sub, no sub, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And you kind of just have to live with that.
Yeah.
But you don't feel like you can live with that. You feel like you have to ensure or, it's the word that I'm looking for, stratify your
Yes,
future.
yeah.
And a lot of us get a bit of a reality check when we realize that it doesn't always work that way. So this is my long roundabout way of asking is, when you're in that position where failure doesn't feel like it's an option, but it's a possibility,
Yeah.
how can tapping into this relationship with Krishna, understanding yourself as a spirit soul, detached from this material body, how can that make the suffering, that comes with still having to do what you have to do a bit more bearable,
Yes.
a bit more grounded?
So one way we could make it, I'll make a sort of a ground example. So if you think about like animals, like elephants and maybe so many ants here or whatever, they get exactly what they need, right? They don't work or they don't study, but they get fed nicely and they have a home, they have a family, everything's provided. So who's providing? It's obviously it's God. So if you dedicate your life to God, maintenance is not a problem. Of course He'll maintain you. If He's doing it for the animals, what to speak of someone is trying to connect him in a loving relationship. It's easy stuff for Him. So that's one way to go about it in terms of like, where will I be situated? How will I live? So that's one way to go about it. In terms of like, okay, you've already built up so much momentum in trying to go for this particular field that you want to excel in. Two things may happen. It may be so we have this material body. I'm not saying you neglect it. You have a psycho and physical nature. Psychologically, you need to be at least somewhat peaceful, and physically. All right, cool. But it doesn't take that much. You don't have to endeavor so much for it. You just take what you need. The field, two things may happen. The field that you go for may not be according to your psychological nature. So you may do it because someone told you have to do it. Like I have an Indian parents. Some of us have Indian parents, and they'll pound you with the pressure, like doctor or lawyer or engineer, I remember that. It was intense because I chose design, which wasn't respectful. What would the friends, what would the relatives think? Look at their son, they're doctors. Always, trying to keep up with the Joneses, So that pressure may be there, and that may not work out for you, because it's just not your nature, you're not attracted to it, and you just feel all this pressure. So it may not work, so then you find another field that's more conducive for your psychological situation. And you'll be surprised, is anyone over 25 here? Over 25? Over 30? No, okay. Still got time. You still got time, Yeah. Usually when you're under 25, you still have more time. 25, most people sort of get settled by 35 and they know exactly what's going on. So don't worry, you got heaps of time. It's all good. Uh, so, say it is fits in with your psychological nature, and you've already pushed for through the hurdles to get to whatever result you want to gain, the degree. And you probably maybe networked into the industry already. Then because it's already natural for your psychological situation, then you probably have more time and energy for developing a relationship with God. And then with that higher consciousness, you actually will start to excel even more in that field, and you'll know exactly how to act in a way that doesn't degrade your spiritual consciousness and at the same time doesn't compromise your material situation. Does that make sense? Okay.
Makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I've kind of tried to change fields, and I found like I've had no time to get in touch with anything else. I'm sort of trying to force myself in a place where I'm not, and now I'm trying to go back.
Okay.
And it's kind of happening more
I
as
see.
you go back.
Yes,
It's
yes.
really interesting.
Okay, cool. There you
So,
go.
yeah,
You probably shared that energy with me. Yeah. Okay, great. You had? Yeah.
Sorry. I think I have two questions. One is you talk about consciousness, and
Yes.
so we have animals and
We have?
we have animals and we
Yes.
have us
Yes.
humans, and I think I understand it correctly when I say the level of consciousness is more complex when you come to us humans and
Yes.
as compared to animals. And that level of consciousness, when it comes to us human, that is when we are, if I understand correctly, that is when we actually are aware that I am myself, and that comes with a lot of expecting things from the world, basically, because I'm aware that I'm a person and I have these needs. If I'm saying it correctly, but my understanding is that, please, I just want you to clarify my understanding is that it's coming from an absurd point of view, that the world is, or reality is happening. There is suchness, which is the reality happening on its own, and it's us human that we assign words to that happening, to those happening, and those words are the words that come and have a psychological effect to how to have a psychological effect to us, such that you see something that is good, but that is bad. But the world on its own is just happening, and in this absurd way of looking things, the world does not care that you are here, and the world does not care whatsoever word you have assigned to that action that is interacting with you, in some sense. So we go through the phase of feeling angry, sad, because of the way we assign whatsoever that is happening in relation to us. And I just want you to probably correct me if I'm wrong, because as far as I understand, that's more like a nihilistic point of view of life, that life has no meaning in general, and for you to find sense to try to find sense to whatsoever that is happening in the world, that does not make sense, because the world does not care about you. It's just happening on its own. You are just part of the whole process of it happening. But since you are here, you will try to make sense, because you have this high level of consciousness as a person, and you will then assign words to whatsoever that is happening in relation to you.
Yes. Yes, that is the problem. When one becomes self-centered, or like this body is the center of all existence, thinking that I'm this material body and everyone and everything is for my use, if I say it nicely. I was going to say exploitation, but for my use. Yeah. So this is what's called false ego. So you have ego, which means identity, and then there's false ego. So when you identify with this body, you think that I am this material body and everyone's for my enjoyment, everything's for me. So this is like, you think you're the center of existence. But like you said, the world don't care because they all think the same way. So then, you lock heads. But actually, a great saint said that one who thinks that the world needs reform, them themselves needs to be reformed. Your consciousness needs to be reformed, which means that actually everything is happening by God's plan. Everything, not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So we have to turn our ego to true ego, which looks like that I am not this body, I am eternal spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Soul of God, and I connect as a loving servant of God. So everything is for His pleasure, for His use, because it's His. So actually, that's what's called a God-centered life. So then when you have that consciousness, which is able to be developed only in the human form of life, then that's when you start to see reality, or you start to live a happy life. You start to see things in relation to God instead of just yourself and your body and how things aren't going your way. Does that answer your question? Nice questions. That's
I
cool.
like how it's almost like contradictory because, I mean, we are given the power to interpret and judge, and we can judge if we've gone the wrong way, too materialistic, or in the right way, spiritual. So that's in
Yeah.
it. It feels contradictory because that same judgment is what we use to feel threatened to our material as well. It's kind of confusing for me to word this, but it's like we need to be able to discern. It's important, but also we use it to feel like we've been hard done by occasionally. So it's like we get things mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is still important. Like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Like, right and wrong
Yes,
is
yes.
good to get into the right path,
Yes.
but can be applied badly
Yeah.
when you feel like your material self is always being threatened by.
Yeah, so if you look at our situation, like our perspective is quite limited. Like say a small insect in the corner of this room doesn't really know that there's this far out discussion going on between people. They're just worried about the next grain of sugar or something. That's the main concern. So we're kind of like that when we become self-centered. We're just worrying about, I guess, the next whatever is going to satisfy this body. Which in terms of a value of life, it's quite meager. But doesn't mean you have to change what you do, you have to change your consciousness. So many people are having discussions in this university, but who's talking about self-realization and elevating consciousness? So that's happening here. So because our conversation is like that, so that has a spiritual potency that's enlivening in us just now. Many people do music, but do they do it in a God-centered way? So same thing with your studies, with your activities, with your friendships. You can, if you were to do it, practice makes perfect. So we're going to practice trying to do it in a God-centered way. Like she's preparing plates, all this food cooked in God consciousness. Everyone says the mom's cooking's the best, right? Because she puts so much love in there like this. So the people who cook this food, they're in love with God. So if you have love for God, then automatically you love everyone and everything, because God is the source of everyone and everything. And you would treat them properly. You would not exploit them. You'll use things in the right way as well. You'll take care of it at least. So imagine that love going into the food. All the karma is taken away, and it's been blessed by God. And then you start feeding the soul. So self-realization by eating is also possible. Yes. Maybe we can stop here. It's already quite late, maybe. Did you want to chant for 5 minutes? Because we did speak a lot. We can settle down a bit. Yeah? We can do it for 5 minutes?
I've got to head off.
Okay, take a plate though.
I can't because I'm on the bike. But
Oh, you're on the bike. Oh, no. Take a wrap. Take a wrap. No. Oh.
it's like, yeah,
No, no, you see, like, see this foil? Put it in the foil for him, and then,
okay.
yeah,
I could just
yeah. It's okay, nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
It's okay. Okay, let's do the 5 minutes chanting. Let's do that. Cha. Okay. Cha. Okay, look at this thing again. It didn't stop. Oh, it wasn't recording the whole time.
No, it's 1 hour recording now.
Yeah, okay.